Okay, so with this tutorial, I want to show you one way you can quickly digitize your sketches so that you can make some modifications to them, but also so that the exposure of your image, so the photograph that you take of your image, does not get in the way of the idea that you've created. And this is really important because sketches can be really powerful. Because they can allow you to communicate an idea that's in progress. So you can quickly come up with an idea, sketch it up, and share it with somebody and get some feedback. So what I'm using here, I have a scanner in my house, but I don't always have a scanner accessible. And so sometimes this is the way to go. So I'm going to use this program here called Adobe Scan, and this is free with your Adobe subscription, with your enrollment in this course. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scan of this photo. But here, the light is not that good. So it's really important to make sure that you are in the best light possible. So I'm going to move over here, closer to the window. And I'm going to take this again. So I'm going to retake it. And this time, with slightly better light, I'm going to get a better photo of this, better copy of it. I'm going to retake it. So you can see it does a couple of things. One is that it tries to correct the exposure, but it also is working on the geometry. So it finds the edge of the page. And I find sometimes when I'm doing this kind of thing, I'm actually, but again, what this does is it allows you to quickly communicate ideas without the distraction of a poorly exposed photograph. So here, I'm going to go to Acrobat, and under Adobe Cloud Storage, I'm going to go to Scans, and here is the scan, the postcard that I just shot. So I'm just going to double click on that and open it up in Acrobat. It'll download it. You can see here that all of the gray area of the image is gone, and now it's just a relatively clean, very quick sketch. So I'm going to go and I'm going to save as. And I'm going to save it because what I want to do is I want to save it to my computer. And I'm going to choose a different folder. Acrobat uses a slightly different file saving format by default. So I'm going to go here to save it into my postcard project, and I'm going to create a new folder called Images. Go ahead and create this and save it here. Okay, I'm going to leave the rest of Photoshop. So I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to open Photoshop. Here I'm going to open up this file. So I'm going here to my images, correction. Okay. So this, again, it's much cleaner. It allows me to do some editing to it and fix some things. And it also corrected some of the geometry, but you can see some of the geometry still isn't right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and rotate this image counterclockwise, and here you can see the side of the postcard isn't quite straight. So it's helpful if in your sketch you have a line that you know is correct on all sides, lines that show you what the correct geometry is. So I'm going to go ahead and open so here in Photoshop, if your Photoshop does not look this way, you can go here and go to Essentials and reset Essentials, and it should look fairly similar to this. I'm going to go here to View and open my rulers, and I'm just going to drag a guide out here onto this edge of the postcard. And you can see here that this is not straight. And let's take a look here at this other side and see if it's straight. It also is not straight. And take a look at this one here. That is straight. And this is actually the most important line in the image, which is the the angle that all my pictograms are sitting on. So I created this image, I created this infographic quite a while ago. This is a very old sketch in order to demonstrate the relationship between people on transit and people and congestion on the street. And there's a direct relationship. So the idea at the time, there was a lot of confusion with people that drove cars. They saw transit as getting in the way of their progress through the city. And so the idea is that that's not true. Actually, every person that's on a bus is one less car on the road. And so it relieves congestion directly. The relationships are very closely connected. So what I want to do is I want to correct this. So I'm going to go here, Command. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer here and I'm going to adjust it. So I'm going to go to here to Edit, Free Transform. And then what I can do is I can just, within this free transform, so under image transform, so when the free transform, when the image is locked up with these handles around it, I can go to transform and I can go, and what's going to give me the most control is distort. So that allows me to grab any of these corner points and drag them to fix this. And so what I actually want to do is I want to actually correct this horizon line. I'm not so much worried about this top and bottom here. So I'm actually going to drag this up like this. So you know what I can do? I can actually take, if I hover towards the edge here, let's actually go and change this to skew. So I'm going to go to Edit. So I corrected the width of it, and now I want to actually skew it. So I want to actually move it so that without changing the width of it, I can actually change the angle of the scan. So you know what, I could do it this way as well. So this allows me to change that way. It's a very powerful way to be able to make adjustments to your image. So I'm going to just drag it up like that. And go ahead and hit enter or the check mark up here. And there we go. And now I have a scan that's pretty clean. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, save as. I can adjust a lot of the other things in here, but what I want to do is I want to show you how you can actually take this and you can actually copy elements and move them to other parts of your image and reuse parts of your scan and edit things and clean it up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file. I'm going to go here. I'm going to delete this here. I'm going to actually save it as Andrew 22.3F ID8 GD101. Save it as a Photoshop file and go ahead and save it. So a couple of things I can do here. One is I scribbled in all this text here. I don't want to use it because I can set it much cleaner in Illustrator. So I'm actually going to take my eraser tool. And you know what, I want you to go here first, go to Preferences and check your transparency. So here my transparency grid is set to none, but this is actually very useful. So I'm going to set it to medium, go OK. And what I want to do is I want to show you what happens when you erase on this layer here. But I want you to erase non-destructively. So I don't want you to avoid deleting things wherever possible, deleting pixels. So what we're going to do is instead of actually erasing here, because I can take this eraser and I can actually erase this. And you can see that now those pixels are gone and that layer now has transparency and it has a hole in it where I erased those pixels. So this eraser tool works like a brush tool. I can change the width of it up here in the top, but I can also, by right-clicking, I can access the size and I can actually erase this. But you know, I've erased pixels. I don't want to do that. Wherever possible, do not erase pixels. So what you can do instead is you can take this tool here, this widget here at the very bottom of your screen. There's this widget called a mask. So you add a mask, and if you draw into the mask, you're doing essentially the same thing, but you've not deleted anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this time I'm going to take my brush tool. And you can see here that it's, and the mask works like a stencil. So wherever it's white, that's where the changes, that's where you can see through it. Where it's black, that's where it's hiding things. So you can see here that my brush tool is very large. I'm going to right click and reduce the size. And again, if your display does not look this way, so if your brush tool is not showing you the size of your brush, go up here to Preferences, and go to Cursors, and change this to Full Size Brush Tip. Here's the standard, so that shows you what the tool is that you have. This is the precise one, it gives you the crosshair, but this is the super useful one because it shows you the size of your brush. So I can just go ahead and paint on here. And here you can see, if you look at the mask here, so just going to enlarge this area for a minute. You can see here that there's now, I've drawn onto this mask, and that is hiding some of this image. It hasn't created any, it hasn't deleted anything, it's only hidden some of the image. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this here. And I'm going to turn on my Cursor Pro now that I've shown you this mask idea. And I'm going to go ahead and erase, delete this part. So all the text I'm going to erase. And then I'm going to actually duplicate some things and move some things over because I want this to show a relationship that's divided in half. So I have my roughly the size of my postcard penciled in. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and this is roughly the size of the postcard, and roughly around the middle, that's where I want to show the relationship between the two sides of the story. So here I have this side of the story and that side of the story. So in order to do that, I'm going to do this thing where I go, same thing that we did before, image, free transform, and that gives me a crosshair in the center. I'm going to drag a guide out to the center here, and it'll snap in place. And I'm going to hit escape. Now I've escaped out of the free transform, and I have the center mark. And what I want to do is I want to actually take some of these elements and move them over. So I want to take these elements here, and I want to move them over. So I'm going to go edit via copy. So that'll make a new layer, and I'm just going to switch over to my move tool and move this over here like that. And these are all part of the graphic language of TransLink. So here we have people, we have a parent, we have some people with accessibility mismatches, including the mobility icon. And on this side, we have a carpool, and we have a transport truck, and then we have these single occupancy vehicles. Here's one that's not actually a single occupancy vehicle. So to avoid the confusion on that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to erase, I'm going to hide this bit of the bus here. So I'm going to switch to my brush tool. Sorry, do it on the layer mask. Brush tool here. And I'm actually going to go in here into this single occupancy vehicle, and I'm going to erase the other, hide the other faces here, so it's only showing the driver. This is predominantly the way that people drive in the city, is everybody's in their own car. And I actually want to do is I want to actually duplicate these so I can show more. So I'm actually showing the reduction of at least this number of people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm actually going to go here, and to know which one you're editing, all you have to do is see the white crosshairs that appear around the icon. So here I'm editing the mask, here I'm editing the image. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to go layer via copy, and there it showed me the heads again in there. So I'm just going to drag this up, and I got, how many did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at least 6. So just within this image here, we've actually reduced the number of people on the bus, oh, here's one more in there, by 7. So that is actually reducing the number of cars on the road. But we can actually assume that there's more people on the bus. And I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to erase this first. I'm going to go and create a layer mask here. And I'm going to take my brush tool and erase these other heads here. And I'm going to delete the ground here. This is more abstract floating in space. So, full disclosure, TransLink did not move ahead with this this particular campaign. they were actually have a real, make sure you keep your layers organized. They actually have a real conflict of interest because they make money off of the gas tax, so they don't want to promote too much transit. They don't want to promote people to get off the road. So this is the main infographic. And then here, they felt this was too negative. It's just showing this negative side to getting off the road. So let's see here. Oh yeah, this is the transit. Boarding. And I'm going to actually do this again. So D, I'm going to actually bleed it right off. So I'm going to actually take this one. So I'm going to hold I'm holding my Option key down while I'm dragging, and that creates a copy. And I'm going to bleed it right off to show just the quantity of people off the road. Kind of, this gestalt idea that, we understand that if something is cropped in a frame, that it continues beyond the frame, right? So we don't actually have to show the whole car. So these ads are very limited by. And so here the idea is this kind of positive message that these guys here, these trucks, they can't take transit. So this kind of industry in the city needs the roads, and carpoolers also should have that freedom to use the roads as well. So what I could do too is I could actually copy this arrow over here, and I could have these really consistent looking arrow shapes. But I want to just leave it for now. Just want to show you one more thing before I switch over to Photoshop, and that is how to color things. So here I have this edited infographic. I did it fairly quickly. I'm going to take all of these, and I'm going to put them into the special object called a Smart Object. So I'm going to right click here, convert to Smart Object. And this is transit congestion relationship. So this shows the two, and here, this is where it would, I have some flexibility here when I get into Illustrator, but where exactly when I crop things, I could actually spend some time and clean this up some more, but I'm going to leave it for now. What I want to just show you one thing before we go ahead, and that is how to create a colored area under here. What I want to do is I want to make these arrows really pop and show this kind of opportunity. And I'm going to do that with a gradient. So I'm going to draw a gradient here. I'm going to draw a gradient, and I'm going to start with a shape. So here I'm selecting my pen tool, and I'm going to create a shape, and I'm going to fill it with a gradient. I'm going to choose one of these gradients here just to start with this gradient here, and I'm going to choose a green. Okay, and drag this across, and I'm going to also choose a green here. I could actually choose the same green. What I don't want to do is I don't want to choose white, so I want to choose a green. Actually, I totally love this green. I'm going to copy this. Copy. Don't want it to look too artificial. And I can change this later because I'm working with a vector, so and here I want to actually, this side will be 100% and this side will be 0. And that creates this gradient. And now I'm just going to start drawing here. I'm going to start from the ground and actually draw a shape here. And you can see something happen here, that this is actually grayscale. So if I look here at the top of my page here, this is actually a grayscale image. So I'm going to switch the mode to RGB color. Don't merge, don't rasterize. And now I have to redo my gradient. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to choose new gradient. I'm just pasting the color that I chose before. And I'm going to make this 0%. Okay, and again, don't worry about these holes in here. That is just showing transparency. That's it. If I want to actually correct it so that I can see it the way that it's going to look in the end, I can actually add a fill layer. So I can go here to Layer, New Fill Layer, Solid Color, and call it White. And choose White. And I'm just going to drag this layer all the way to the bottom here. And I can take this, so this arrow here, so this is my arrow. And this is garbage. So I'm going to take this arrow and I'm going to duplicate it. So duplicate layer and call arrow up. And I'm going to drag this here, Command T, free transform, and rotate it around. And here you can see that my arrows are not the same. So here's where the advantage is of working with arrows that are identical. I could copy the image, but I'm going to do it quicker. I'm going to see if I can do it quicker here by just grabbing the vectors here and dragging them onto the arrow here. That arrow is a little more symmetrical than this one. I'm going to drag this right down to the baseline, and then I'm going to show you a blending technique that merges everything together. So I'm going to rotate this fill. So I'm going to do it -90 degrees. So just change the degrees here. I could use this rotation widget as well. Now what I want to do is I want these to make sure that it's totally flat. So right now, because there's some transparency in the image, these sketch lines are showing through, but I want to kind of make it look like I did it by hand. So I want all the sketch marks to come through. I don't want it to look digital. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two arrows, I'm going to hold my Shift key down to select both, and I'm going to go here to my blend mode where it says normal, and I'm going to multiply. And that combines those two together. I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to open it in Illustrator. Switch over here to Illustrator, and here in this template that we have, I'm going to place that file. So here under Content, I'm going to go File and place it. And I'm going to take here, go to my folder where I saved it. You know, I have years and years and years worth of folders on here. The further along I go into this, the more I realize the power of keeping things organized and how valuable it is. So this is my postcard here. I'm going to kind of roughly place it at the trim mark there. And I can delete those trim lines later. But I just want to roughly place it where, and you know, I think I'm going to start with the ground being in the center, and that'll give you the most flexibility for where I place things. So again, I'm working with bleed, so I want this character to bleed off the edge of the postcard, and this is where I need to extend it to in order to have an accurate trim on my postcard. And same with this side. So I'm putting the very light line, the edge of my postcard there, and I can go delete that afterwards once I've placed it. And then I can go here. I'm going to take this scale tool, and here it's important to scale proportionally. So I'm going to set the reference point, so the point where the scaling is going to start here. It's going to be right here, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to go over to my other side here, and I'm just going to start dragging. But what I'm going to do is, as I drag, I'm holding the Shift key down, and that will force it to constrain, and I'm going to place it roughly where that other pencil line is. So all the rest, oh, I did that wrong. I'm going to do this again. That's right, the trim is right here. And it can be a little bit tricky. You can snap between constraining horizontally and vertically, but you just want to make sure that you're constraining your image so that it's aligned, so it's constraining the width and the height. Okay, so you can see the rest of this is all trim. So with this placed, what I can do now is I can go here to my non-printing layer, and I can take this line here, which is the bleed. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to go back here to so I'm switching over here to my selection tool. I'm going to select the image. I'm going to go edit, paste in front. So that's going to place it in exactly the same spot. You can see here now that the only thing selected is that rectangle. I'm going to hold my Shift key down and select the image. So now I have two things selected, and I can tell if I expand the layers palette, you can see that I have the rectangle and that original scan, the sketch, both selected. I'm going to right click, and I am going to make a clipping mask. And now I have this postcard set up so that I can print it and trim it, and I get a nice clean edge here that extends beyond. What I'd probably want to do is I'd probably want to give all of these different colors, just so that they stand out a little bit more on the page. But just for simplicity's sake, this is where we're going to end up here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to lock this, and I'm going to take my text tool, and I'm going to add back in all that information that I hid. So here I want to show, let's go back to my image. I'm going to double click on the smart object, which allows me to go inside and see it. I'm going to go here to the layer mask, and I'm going to disable it, and this allows me to see all these notes that I made. So here I want to say 1 million passengers, and here I want to say less congestion, and just showing the relationship between the two. So using my text tool, I'm going to type here 1 million passengers. And before I move on, I'm going to select my typeface. I'm going to choose Meta, which is the translate typeface. So Meta OT normal, so the OT stands for open type. So 1 million passengers. And keeping it really simple. I don't actually want to use these special characters because the client would always trip up over them if I didn't use them exactly right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the matrix and look at my characters here. So this is these open type features, and I'm going to use tabular lining. And those are letters that are meant to be in a table. They're not letters that are meant to be read in text. So 1 million passengers, and I'm going to call it less congestion. And you know what? I think if I go plus, okay, so plus 1 million passengers equals less congestion, and then I had some copy here that read. So this is like the headline here. So I'm actually going to make these bold. So I'm going to actually choose bold, and then here this becomes the body copy. So this is 12 point. I'm going to reduce this to 10. Actually make it 9.5. And this is this. Okay, so the idea is to make it very personable. So each transit passenger opens up the road for those of us who copy. And the only other thing missing is a call to action. And so that's usually a URL. But because this is a postcard, I would probably put that on the other side. So I'd have here, I'm going to place my rationale, and at the end it's going to be this call to action, which is travelsmart.ca. So this is my rationale, and you know what, the legend can go there as well. And I'm going to leave the rest to you, but I think I just wanted to show you those tricks for cleaning up your sketches and getting your ideas across. And we're going to continue to develop our ideas and our images as we get towards the end of this course. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.